Hello, hello, hello. This is Angela and this is ACHROMIA Writes. Thank you for joining me. Today we're going to be doing the second part of my first writing vlog. And yes, I am not feeling well today, so y'all just got to look at this picture. You'll be all right. Okay, so in this part 2, I stated I would go over my book formula for my current novel, current work in progress, WIP. And we're just going to go through the chart that I explained in part 1. If you didn't see what I did and the things I explained, please go back and look at that video, and hopefully this will make more sense for you. So anyway, we're just going to fill in the blanks. So the title. I do not currently have a title, and so I am just going to call this Project Circle. That's what it is. I'm going to skip the story for now until I can put it into more clear and concise language as to what it's about, because there are, a few things going on, but we'll skip the main quote-unquote story, which for me right now is going to be more of like the hook, not the whole story, just stuff to whet the people's appetite. Okay, genre. This is going to be a historical literary fiction. I never know if it's supposed to be historical literary or literary historical. Anywho, that's what it is. Okay, now the conventions for historical literature, of course, you refer to historical events, people, places. Well, obviously that's not all of it. We're going to put a star there because in another video I'll go over the actual conventions of literary fiction. Pretty much the same thing, but when I think of literary fiction, I kind of think of the prose a lot. I don't want to say flowery, syrupy, right? You know what that means, right? I also think that literary fiction teaches you something. All fiction should teach you something, but I think this goes out of its way to teach you something. And again, we'll put a star here because there are other conventions, which I will talk about later. The category. I am writing for adults. Now, later, I would like to have a children version, so we'll just put a star by that. But for now, it is for adults because I have no clue how to write this in a children's version yet, because there's some heavy topics in here. Type, plot, or character. This is definitely going to be a character-driven novel. And why is that? Because, boom, 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 going back to literary fiction, I think literary fiction calls for character-driven plots. Okay, spiritual aspect. As far as I know for right now, what I have been diving into in this particular book has been a one-on-one relationship with God, your maker, whatever the reader deems is a higher power. Because although I am a Christian and I have no problem speaking about my Christianity, I do not want the book to stifle readers from enjoying it because they think I'm pushing them into Christianity. What I am trying to do is to say there's someone higher than you. That's the spiritual aspect so far. I have a couple of other things, but that's probably a main one. So, voice. So, in this one, I'm going to be going over the Great Exodus and the people who were in the Great Exodus, called the Exodusters. Okay, I'm also going to be going over some voices that were involved in the Senate hearings regarding the Great Exodus, and I'm going to say black voices in particular. Social issue. So the social issue for this book is going to be Reconstruction versus Redemption. I'll explain a little bit more of that in the book, but basically during this time period there were many thoughts, dreams from Black Americans that they would finally be able to have the same freedoms as white Americans. That is the Reconstruction era. You know, government was trying to put things in place, people were trying to put things in place, things like that. But then we slide into the Redemption era, which is kind of the end of that period where everything seems to fall apart, and we start to see violence, things of that nature against African Americans. The subplot, I have not decided yet, but I may have a romance subplot or a mystery. Still working that out. I don't want to have too many subplots because the main goal of the book is to bring forth these really heard kind of hidden voices. In writing this book, that was the main point I was trying to get across, is because I had not heard the voices of Black Americans during this time period. Now, the theme is something I think is found when you're kind of writing the book, but I think a strong theme in this book will be friendship. I don't want to list too many themes. I want them to kind of come out naturally, and they have, but I know that's a very strong one. And actually, trust. I have many resources. I'm using books, films, newspapers, government documents, which are Senate hearing transcripts. I'm using info found at historical societies. And last but not least, I'm using personal narrative. Okay, so I explained what book quirks were, but my book, I like when I see chapter titles in books. And so a book quirk that I'm looking at is having my chapter titles be actual scriptures. I think I may have said this before, that if you want to read a book that has many stories, the Holy Bible is one of them. I can't think of one story that it does not cover. And although, you know, quote unquote, is olden times, blah, 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 I just can't think of anything, not any subject, any kind of story, any kind of relationship I can't find in the Bible. So I think one of the book quirks would be, where I have an abundance of material to use, would be to make a chapter title a scripture, and that scripture would hopefully kind of foreshadow what's going to happen in that particular chapter. Also, I have, you know, some recipes that are going to come about throughout the book. So I would love to put some recipes in the book. Also, because we're going to be going to a couple of places in the book, I do want to put a map, something that people know we're here now, and this is kind of what it looked like back then. So those are like 3 little quote unquote book quirks I would like. I have to do several drafts. I know for the first draft, which is just me finishing up the story, I want it to be done in the summer, but it may be the fall. So I'm going to say summer/fall. If I'm lucky enough to get that done, then the second draft will be done after I have some beta readers read it. The third draft will be done after I have an editor read it, which I have to find one. I think when I get the book out to beta readers, then I may start looking for editors. Maybe if I'm like 75% of the way, it's kind of like I don't want to take time away to look for editors, because I think it will get to do something new and exciting, and it kind of like, you know, takes your stuff away. Oh, let me move this up so y'all can see. I mean, like, girl, dang, have y'all even been able to see that? I'm sorry, but listen, if you've been listening, you heard what I said. Okay, now we're going on to the character and their purpose. So the main protagonist is the enslaved woman. Her name is Aswa, and her mentor is actually going to be a historical figure, which is Ida B. Wells. Actually, she's going to have two. She's going to have another person named Miss Junie. And her family, her father is Layne and her mother is Alita, which I might change Alita's name because I seem to be repeating names that begin with certain letters, like A and J seem to be my little repeats. Okay, so might be changing those names. So that's her family. It's just the three of them, and then she has a couple of friends, and this is what I mean by this repeat. She has Gian, Jolly, and Juba. So that's too many J names, but I gotta keep Jolly and Juba, so I'll probably change Gian, and I'll explain why I gotta keep Jolly and Juba as we go along. The main antagonist is going to be a man named Sturgeon, and I haven't picked out Aswa's last name or her family's last name because to me names are very important, and I picked those names for a reason. And so to get a proper last name, I have to do a little bit more research. So Sturgeon Weeder, his mentor, I haven't decided yet on his mentor. I think I know who it's going to be, but it's probably going to be two different people, one good and one bad. So I think I know who they are, but yeah, I had to come back to that. His family. So he is the son of Archibald Wheeler, and I don't know what his mama's name is, but there she is. He has a friend, and her name is Orly, and right now that's the friend that he has. He may get another friend, I'm not sure yet, but definitely Orly is his friend. Information characters, we have an overseer named Donovan, his wife named Saoirse, and we have a guy named West, which I might change his name to because I thought of this like little plot event, and I might need to change his name. And then we have a young lady named Huying. And filler characters, these are townspeople. We got a delivery boy, a doctor, and some sharecroppers, and a couple of other people. The narrator, I've decided to make it Sturgeon because I read a lot of books where the narrator is like a third person telling the story from both sides, or you have the hero telling the story. And I don't read too many books where the antagonist is telling the story, and so I wanted to allow him to tell the story. And so that's been interesting because trying to learn the quirks and stuff of guys and younger men and the position he's in and stuff. It's been interesting. Anywho, prologue. I have not decided, but if I do, it will be in a form of a letter to someone, of course. And it basically will be a Sturgeon not talking, writing to his mother. I don't really care for prologue, so this is a real big if. The beginning, we start off with this harvest on the property of Sturgeon. And at the harvest, we're doing a new sharecropping contract. That's where we start. The middle, we're going to have some secrets revealed and other things, because that middle you got to fill up. All right. And then the end, well, I know the end, but y'all need to know that. And then the epilogue. I like epilogues, so I think I have it in mind. So I'll probably have one. I do have one in mind. Gosh, start to be the summer, and these little bugs just in your house. I had the doggone screen open a little bit, and well, I didn't mean to have it open, but it was open, and dang on fly got in here, and Lord, I tried to kill that doggone fly jumping around here. Ooh, I can't stand flies. Anywho, contact. So critique partners, I'm actually in the process of getting one. I joined this little writers community thing, and I'm just reading people's bios right now. to find one that works with me. And then beta readers, I have actually found a few, and I did that after I did like this little short story. And I did a short story, and then I sent over part of this novel, and I sent it to a little experiment. I sent it to 8 beta readers and found 2 I was really solid with, and 1 more that's a possibility. And depending on their schedules, I probably will be going with the 2 for them to read the whole novel. As a beta reader and sensitivity reader myself, I do believe that it is best to try people out. You don't want to give them your whole book and then find out they're really not providing the type of feedback that you need. So what I suggest is, if you do have a short story that's in the same vein as the genre you're writing in and stuff like that, try that out on someone, because beta reading and sensitivity readers, I know people always say, oh, beta readers can be free. And listen, free is nice when you have someone who is, I would suggest, a writer. Or free is nice if you have someone who really enjoys reading books in your genre, right? But free means you're waiting, and they really don't have the responsibility to come back to you. But a paid beta reader, they're obligated. You have that, I need this done by this deadline, I'm willing to pay for this. So it can get expensive, and so try to give a potential beta reader a first chapter, first 10 pages, a small short story. I would suggest more a first chapter or first 10 pages, because you want to see if they're able to vibe with what your novel is about, right? So that's that. And actually, I have to look for, I'm going to add in a line here, because this story is going to need a sensitivity reader, maybe a few. And so I have to find one. And they can be expensive, because just like they are paid. And so I have to find one, maybe 2, but I'm not going to get more than 2. 1, because I'm already a sensitivity reader, and I know some of the things that, I at least know some of the questions that I want to ask. And that's almost part of the issue and the problem, is asking some of the right questions and then being able to find someone who is able to read for that particular sensitive group. So I am hoping to find 2, but at least 1 good solid one. Editors, I have no idea. I have not started looking, although I have some on my radar. Again, my main focus right now is just getting the book out, and so I don't want to jump to that. Like I said, I have a couple on my radar, but nothing finalized, nothing solid. And editors cost money too, so I'm not looking to, as they say, cheap it out, because I do want a quality editor. And that does not mean that's because somebody is lower priced that they are not a good editor, but I need to get some references. If y'all got some references for some editors, let me know. Literary agents, again, I have not started really looking, but again, there are a few on my radar. And how they got on my radar is because I've read some books, some historical fiction books and some mystery books that I really enjoyed, and really dealt with some more serious subjects, but also dealt with, dealt with some issues in publishing that are kind of important for me as a Black writer. And so I am looking at those people. But again, I need to get past these 3 first before I jump to any of these. And so, oh Lord, did I not, can y'all see? I hope y'all can see. So that is my book formula for Project Circle. And again, book formula is just the bare bone basics. This has nothing to do with the characters. This has nothing to do with actual plot points in the book. This is just bare bone. This is the skeleton of what I'm going to be looking at and what I'm going to be writing and what I know that I want in my book. Now, might this change? Maybe a little bit, because again, I'm in the middle of learning how to write, right? And so I might add some stuff in here, but I really just wanted, let me put this on as Project Circle before I forget. I just really wanted to know, just have a skeleton of what I wanted in this first novel. And so there you go. If y'all have any suggestions, I am open. But that's the Project Circle book formula. Moving on. And I have had to take time out of my day to come and help one of my poor children because he was playing sports too rough and fractured his foot. Say hello. All right, we'll be back later. Okay, y'all, so I'm sorry. I had to make a quick stop because, let's be real, I came up here because I had some library books on hold and then remembered that I had some library books that was due. I am terrible at this, but this is my favorite library, okay? It has a writing center. It is thebomb.com. So yeah, we about to go in here and turn in these books and get some books. But let me show y'all my library. Look, there go the writing center, y'all. This library is beautiful, honey. That whole building right there is the writing center, okay? I'm gonna take y'all inside in a minute. I don't want to interrupt people, but I will be taking some photos so y'all can see what I be doing, where I be at, okay? Let's walk on this way. And this is the front of the library. They do so much with the kids and stuff, y'all. You can even rent library books and stuff like that. It is crazy. But y'all, it's a real cute, nice little library. So we finna go in. I'm gonna give people their little privacy. So I'm just gonna be taking some pictures. But this is my favorite library. We going in. Hold on. Well, thank y'all so much again for joining me. And please do me a favor and subscribe, like, share, and come back. And of course, in the meantime, in between time, read some great books and do some happy writing. Bye.